If getting your products into boutiques has been on your list for some time, then this is your sign. The Retail Ready Wholesale Challenge is a 5-day private podcast experience that walks you through exactly how to find the right retailers, write a pitch that gets replies, and follow up like a pro. It's only 20 minutes a day, $25, and by day 3, you'll have real pitches in real retailer inboxes. One wholesale account more than pays for this challenge many times over. Go to retailreadychallenge.com or the link in the show notes to grab your spot. If I told you that hitting 100K in wholesale revenue wasn't actually about working harder, getting more followers, or having a bigger product line, would you actually believe me? Because most of the sellers that I talk to are grinding day in and day out. They're doing all the things. They're applying to fair. They're going to markets. They're DMing boutiques, and they're still stuck somewhere between this is promising and this is actually profitable. Here's what I know after working with hundreds of product-based business owners. The gap between where you are and 100K in wholesale isn't a hustle gap. It's actually a strategy gap. And today we're going to close it. Welcome to She Sells Differently. Hi, friends. Welcome to She Sells Differently, the show for aspiring women entrepreneurs looking to overcome the fear of selling and grow thriving businesses from a place of authenticity and confidence. I'm Andee Hart, and it wasn't all that long ago that I was a sales executive for a Fortune 500 company. But I knew in my heart that I was called to use my gifts for something more, something different. That's exactly why I created the She Sells Differently podcast. Each episode is going to deliver you business strategies, tools, and mindset shifts to help set you and your brand apart from our culture's expectations. It's time to elevate your sales and build a profitable, sustainable business you're proud of, one built on integrity, grace, and humility. It's time to learn how to sell differently. Hey, welcome back to the She Sells Differently podcast. I am your host, Andee Hart, and if you're new here, welcome. This podcast is for product-based business owners who are looking to sell differently without the ick and grow their wholesale revenue without pressure, guesswork, or burnout. So welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Today's episode is one I have been wanting to record for a while because this question comes up constantly with my clients. How do I actually get to 100K in wholesale? Because ultimately we want to make this our full-time job. Am I right? And so what I want to do in this episode is break down that question for you in a way that's very real, specific, and actually usable. So we are going to be talking about why most sellers stall out before they hit that 100K number and the 3 strategic shifts that change everything and what it looks like to build a wholesale revenue engine that runs consistently, not just around the holidays or when you have a spike of energy, because let's be real. I know we've all been there. I definitely have myself. Okay, so let's start with the honest, brutal conversation first, that most product-based sellers who are trying to grow their wholesale business in general hit a wall somewhere in the 20 to 50K range, and they just can't figure out why. You might be nodding your head that, yes, this is you. You probably have good products, you have solid reviews, and you're getting some reorders, but the number is just not moving in the direction we want it to. So here's why that really happens, and I want you to really hear this. What I see so often is that these makers are running a reaction-based business instead of a revenue-based business. And what I mean by that is this. They're responding to whatever comes in. An order comes in, they ship it, a buyer messages them, they reply, a slow month hits, and they post a discount. And there's no system or strategy. There's no intentional engine behind the growth. And here's the key part that I see most people missing. Reaching 100K in wholesale is not 10x the effort of 10K. It's a different approach entirely. So I'm going to give you a specific example. If you're at 30K right now and you want to hit 100K this year, then that's roughly 70K in new revenue. Now, you could try to get there by chasing 700 new buyers at $100 each, or you could work smarter. You could focus on increasing your average order value, building a consistent reorder system, and optimizing your fair presence so buyers come to you. You see the difference? A lot less work and a lot more strategy. It's the same goal, but just completely different energy. And the sellers who break through to 100K, they have made that shift from reactive to strategic. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about in the rest of this episode. So these are the 3 shifts that change everything. And I see the biggest difference for sellers that are in the 100K range and the ones that are not. These are the 3 shifts that they're making. So I want you to listen to each one and honestly ask yourself, am I doing this? So the first shift is moving from random outreach to a repeatable sales system. And one of the biggest mistakes I see is sellers treating their business like a one-time event, specifically wholesale, like a one-time event, rather than an ongoing rhythm. It's much less expensive to get a current retailer that has tried your products to reorder than to go acquire a new retailer. So I'll see brands, they'll go hard for 2 weeks. They'll send a bunch of messages on Fair and maybe reach out to some boutiques, and then life happens and everything stalls. And so 3 weeks later, they're starting over from zero. Now, 100K sellers are not doing more. They're doing the same things consistently. They have a weekly rhythm. They know how many new buyers they're contacting each week, how they're following up, and what their conversion rate actually looks like. And is it glamorous? No, but it's not complicated. And simplicity scales. And simplicity is consistent. So the question for you is, do you have a system or do you have sporadic effort? And be honest with yourself, because this makes all the difference. The second shift is moving from one-time buyers to a reorder revenue system. And this one is really, truly a game changer. If you are only focused on acquiring new retail buyers, then you are working way harder than you actually have to. And here's a little math that I love. If you have 50 active wholesale accounts and each one reorders just $500 worth of product 2 additional times a year, that's $50,000 in revenue from buyers you already have. So the sellers who hit 100K are obsessed, relentlessly obsessed with retention, not just acquisition. They know their reorder window. They have a follow-up strategy. They make it incredibly easy for buyers to come back and do business with them. And Fair makes this easy too with built-in tools to help with this. Things like reorder automations and reminders, direct outreach, promotions specifically for your existing buyers. But most sellers either don't know about them or they're not using them consistently. And then the third shift is going from hoping to knowing. And yes, this one is a mindset shift as much as it is a strategy shift. But the sellers I see that stall are often operating in the dark. They don't know their conversion rate. They don't know what percentage of their buyers reorder. They don't know which products are driving the most wholesale revenue. They don't know their average order value, and they're hoping things are going well. But as I've said before, and I'll say it again, hope is not a strategy. 100K sellers know their numbers, and not just because they're data nerds, but because they have learned that the numbers tell you exactly what to fix and where to focus. And when you know your numbers, you stop guessing. You stop wasting energy on things that aren't working, and you start doubling down on what is. And that is a game changer. So what does the path to 100K actually look like? And I want to talk about the actual path because I want to give you something concrete here. 100K in wholesale annually breaks down to roughly 8,300 a month. And I want you to sit with that number for a minute because when you see it that way, it starts to feel so much more achievable than the big 100K number. So $8,300 a month. Now, here's where I see how I see sellers build toward that number. And this is actually the foundation of what I call my FAIR 5 framework. The FAIR 5 framework has 3 core phases that work together to build a wholesale revenue engine. Phase 1 is the foundation. And a lot of you guys may have somewhat of a foundation, but you have cracks in that foundation and you have no strategy. And so this is where you make sure your FAIR shop is optimized. Your photos, your pricing, your product descriptions, your minimum order quantities. And if your shop doesn't convert, then nothing else matters. So this is the work that, like I said, most sellers either skip or underestimate or never come back and revisit their foundation because foundation is built on market changes as well. And so I always recommend twice a year, you are reevaluating these things in your wholesale shop. Phase 2 is the content engine, and this is where you start showing up consistently as an active seller. You're using the tools available to you, whether it's in Fair or on your own wholesale website, you're running seasonal promotions, you're leveraging the Fair platform the way it's designed to be used. Because what I see is most sellers treat Fair like a listing page. And then the ones who hit 100K treat it as a sales channel. Very different mindset. Now, phase 3 is the flywheel, and this is where everything starts to compound. New buyers come in because your shop is optimized and your reputation is building from those reviews. Existing buyers are reordering because you have a retention system in place, and your revenue starts to grow without you having to hustle harder each month. And this is the model. And I want to be honest with you because it doesn't happen by accident. It happens when you have a clear strategy, someone to hold you accountable, and a framework that's already been tested. Which brings me to something I want to share with you because so many people can realize they don't have the strategy, but still have no idea where to start. So if you've been listening to this episode and thinking, yes, this is exactly what I need, then I want to tell you about the FAIR Accelerator. It is all new. It's my high-touch coaching 90-day revenue growth program built specifically for sellers who are ready to stop guessing and start scaling to their first or next 100K on FAIR. So in 90 days, we work together to optimize your shop. We build out your sales system and put real growth strategies based on your data in place. And so this is the kind of strategy that actually moves the needle. It's not a self-paced course where you watch videos and just hope for the best. This is high impact, high touch accountability for sellers who are ready to take their product business to the next level. So if you're ready to 10x your FAIR revenue in the next 90 days, I want you to check out the FAIR Accelerator. The link is in the show notes. And if you're not sure if it's the right fit, then send me a DM on Facebook or Instagram. I'm happy to have a real conversation about where you are and whether it makes sense for your brand. So as we close out this episode, here's your action step for today. And I want you to do this within the next 48 hours. I want you to pull up your FAIR shop and answer these 3 questions. What is my current average order value? Now, you can just do this for the past 90 days of data and take your total revenue divided by your number of orders, and that is your current average order value. Number 2, how many of my buyers have placed more than one order? And number 3, which 3 products are driving the most wholesale revenue? And if you can't answer those 3 questions right now, that's your starting point because you cannot build a 100K wholesale business on a foundation of guesswork. So let's get the data and let's start there. Now, this is not complicated, but it does require intention and it does require showing up consistently, even when results feel slow. So I want to thank you so much for spending this time with me today. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to the She Sells Differently podcast so you never miss an episode. And I'll see you next week. Until then, keep selling differently, my friend, and I am cheering you on. All right, that's a wrap on today's episode of She Sells Differently. Friends, it would be a huge blessing to me if you would take 2 seconds to rate and subscribe to my podcast. New episodes drop every Wednesday. Until then, I'm cheering you on in your entrepreneurial journey. See you next time.